Hello everybody, Robin here, and I'm back with another video for you in the book garden. And in this video I'm going to tell you my favourite books of 2023. So here you go, they're my favourite books of 2023. I'm back in the studio again rather than in the conservatory. First up, Justin Lee Anderson's The Lost War. I read this right at the end of December. I haven't reviewed it fully yet. Look out for that, it's coming. But I would thoroughly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I started off thinking, oh, this is a pretty interesting fantasy, not terribly, say run-of-the-mill sounds a bit rude. It's not, you know, I was thinking, oh, wait, it's good, but it's not that exciting. But gradually the characterisation really drew me in, and it turns into really something quite special. And it's almost like a sneaky trick. You're thinking, okay, this is good, I'm enjoying this, and then suddenly you're absolutely hooked. And there's just lots about this. I don't want to say too much, I don't want to spoil it, but there's lots about this book to love, and I can't wait to see where the second one goes. So that's that. So I'm going to be reading the second one in January, so look out for a review. I might do a combined review of the two. We'll see, rather than doing it in one. Depends on how long it takes me to get to the second book. Next up is a second book. It's The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin, and it's published by Orbit Books. If you haven't read The City We Became, I thoroughly recommend that you do. It was one of my, I think it was my favourite book of 2022, possibly 2021. It's an urban fantasy set in New York, and the New York boroughs are kind of personified in this kind of battle against this sort of uber sort of space alien creature type thing. Don't want to give it away too much, but yes, it really is really, really exciting. The personification of the New York boroughs is fantastic. In this book, it's spread a bit wider to the rest of the world. I love the idea of living cities. I think it's amazing. I love the idea of cities with characters, because cities do have character. We went to Bangkok in the summer, and I'd forgotten how Bangkokian Bangkok is, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And so I just loved everything about this. Now, it was going to be a trilogy, and it's now turned into a duology because N.K. Jemisin said she found it so depressing writing this book. It's not depressing to read, it's full of verve and sass, and it's really good, but I can totally see why Jemisin felt like that. She tackles a lot of the sort of, I guess, the Trump takeover of the Republican Party and that kind of move towards, we'll see it in Europe as well, this sort of lurch to the right of politics, and that's covered in this, and I can see why you might think, might get depressed writing about that and immersing yourself in that. So it's a shame, because I really enjoyed it, and I would have loved a third volume with these characters. I'm not going to get it, but it's well worth reading, so do check out The City We Became and The World That We Make by N.K. Jemisin. Can't wait to see what she does. Next, another sequel. Gosh, it was all year of sequels. I hadn't really noticed that. Sylvain Neuvel's Until the Last of Me. I've talked about this a couple of times because I'm going to read the third book. Is incoming on my reading pile. This one is basically about an alternative space race. This is the second book in the series. The first book being called A History of What Comes Next. And it's basically, the premise is that a group of or a race of aliens landed on the planet a long time ago, and they've been trying to nudge humanity towards getting into space. And of course, in the sort of the first book starts at the tail end of the Second World War, and we're starting to get there with Werner von Braun and all that kind of thing. It's how this alien is manipulating the politics of the time to get what she wants. And I just love this book. There's some antagonists as well in the book, which I won't spoil, but they kind of add a bit of danger and frisson to it. And then you've got this sort of lovely cultural history of the times seen through the eyes of this alien narrating the story, who's a great narrative voice as well. So I thoroughly recommend that you check those out. Talked about this a lot. I did make a separate video about this on my gaming channel. The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. It's about the closest you can get to reading an old world Warhammer novel. And I loved it. It oozes that old, for those of you who do watch Warhammer, play Warhammer, it oozes the old world, and the old world is just coming back, of course, if you do follow Warhammer closely. This is much better than anything produced, I would say, by the Black Library on Old World and Warhammer. It is just a fabulous, fabulous read I'd say from start to finish. It's a little bit slow to get going, but you need that. And once you get about a third to halfway in, you're absolutely hooked. I've just read the second book. The third book is out in February. Second book is brilliant too. The narrator of this book is just fabulous, and it's about, the book centres about her relationship with the sort of justice character who goes around. He's a kind of like jury and executioner and judge all in one, and it's about her relationship with him, but then about events in this empire, which is kind of, what is it teetering? That's the question. Where is the plot? What are the machinations? That's what this whole book is about, and I thoroughly recommend The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. talking of excellent fantasy, the first full book review I did on this channel was for Talon Sister by Jen Williams, and I love this too. This has got a kind of folkloric Britain about it. It's got an ancient city lost in eastern jungles. It's got griffins, sentient griffins, and sort of godlike titans fighting each other, as well as mysterious powers buried deep beneath the earth. There's just so many things in this book, and it's quite surprising that they can be woven together into a coherent narrative, which is exactly what Jen Williams does. It's left on an amazing cliffhanger. I'm hoping we'll see book 2 of this in 2024, because I think between maybe these two, they're my standout fantasy reads of the year. And I think Talon Sister just edges the Justice of Kings. It's a bit lighter, I think. I don't know. If you ask me a different day, I might say the other way around. I love Jen Williams' writing. I think she's a brilliant writer. So you should totally check out Talon Sister. And finally, good as those books were, my favourite book of 2023, I think, knocks them all out of the park. This book, I think, in any given year, probably would win my favourite book of the year, which might mean it's my favourite book ever. It's hard to know. I've read it twice, which is a good mark of how good it is, because I read it twice in 2023, and I don't very often read books again. It's The Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel, and I just think this is excellent. I don't think a description of it can really do it justice. It's got multiple time periods, and there's sort of potentially alternate realities, a bit of time travel, a bit of crossing the realms. It dovetails in with some of her previous books, which, you know, it makes the whole thing really rich if you've read her other books. I hadn't read Glass House when I read this, which is another book. I'd read Station 11, which is kind of about a pandemic, and there are pandemics in here, and it's definitely a pandemic novel. It's informed by her experiences, I think, about a pandemic. And Station 11 was written before the pandemic. This one was written afterwards, and I think it really dives deep into the psyche of humanity after dealing with that pandemic. But then it also deals with her book Glass House, that it dovetails with that. But I hadn't read Glass House, and I went back and read Glass House. You don't need to read Glass House at all. In fact, I felt less like I needed to read Glass House reading it a second time. I read this, then I read Glass House, then I read this again. Glass House, although it's a good book, it doesn't really impinge on this at all, I decided. So I would totally it doesn't matter whether you've read it or not, but I would definitely read this. I thought it was brilliant. It really makes you think, and it's quite thin. Some of the chapters are quite short. It's a very easy read. It took me a couple of days to read it both times, and it's just brilliant from start to finish. It's fascinating, it's interesting, it will make you think. It's artfully constructed, got some really good ideas in it, and it's just a brilliant book. So that's it. That's my 2023 favourite reads. Let me know what your favourite read of 2023 was. I should say a lot of those books weren't out in 2023. I just read whatever I've got handy, and my favourite ones for that year, the favourite ones that I read, nothing that's published or whatever necessarily that year. Some of them were. Talon Sister definitely was. And so, you know, they're my favourite reads of 2023. I wonder what my favourite reads of 2024 will be. We'll have to wait and see. Do check out what I'm reading in January in my most recent video, and I'll see you soon somewhere in the book garden. Who knows, maybe I'll be back in the garden, or maybe I'll be here in my little studio. We'll see. See you soon. Bye.